From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents The Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in again to the Open Mic Show on WHAV. The Open Mic Show is a 50-year staple of democracy in the Merrimack Valley. This hour of the Open Mic Show is being brought to you by Northern Essex Community College. Expect more at Northern Essex. Before we get into the usual housekeeping, let me remind you that coming up just after the news at 7 o'clock, we'll present Richard D. Wolff, Professor of Economics Emeritus, University of Massachusetts, Amherst. He will be speaking on the latest developments in the market basket case. Dr. Wolff served at UMass Amherst teaching economics from 1973 to 2008. He's currently a visiting professor in the graduate program in international affairs of the New School University, New York City. He also teaches classes regularly at the Brecht Forum in Manhattan. He'll be discussing some of the latest developments in the market basket situation. Those of you who are fortunate enough, Dr. Wolff has a program called Economic Update on the Pacifica Network. Since WHAV is also a Pacifica affiliate, we ran a special program that he ran last Thursday and Friday nights. Perhaps you caught some of that. WHAV brought this to Dr. Wolff's attention last week, and in fact, he wrote, "You're absolutely right. This is perfect for what my programs try to do. Thanks so much for bringing this to my attention. I plan to discuss the whole market basket controversy on my show, which was last week. That went to 35 stations around the country. If the broader economics of the issue raised by the employees' courageous and important actions might be of interest to WHAV, I'd be glad to speak." And he is doing just that. Last week, we heard from a number of Market Basket employees. I invite any other Market Basket employee or a Market Basket customer to call the program tonight and talk about latest developments. Nathan E. Webster III, Open Mic Show producer, did some protesting of his own this weekend, buying elsewhere and writing on his receipts. Maybe he'll give us an update. I don't know if you're ready to do that yet. All right, so he'll give us an update later on that. Many of you, a quick item in the news that was on WHAV.net earlier, but in fact, despite the new CEOs, Thornton and Gooch, telling employees to return to work, and there would be no reprisals, we have a report that warehouse workers in Andover were not permitted to enter. That is one of the latest developments we'll discuss with Dr. Wolff. Before we get again to bookkeeping, WHAV also broke two rather important news stories today in the lingo of the trade exclusively. One is that if you live in the Bradley Brook neighborhood near or off West Lowell Avenue, you can expect 144 low-income apartments to be built there. You may have been aware of this. This went before the Zoning Board of Appeals some time ago, but now the governor has announced funding that'll go to various communities, and one of them being Haverhill for this project. The city called this project, it's called Tenney Place, and I can only assume that's named after the famous Tenney family of Haverhill. I grew up in that neighborhood. I think Baron Tenney was my neighbor. I'm assuming this is a nod to the Tenney family. In any event, they are planning 144 units. The city called it a friendly 40B project. Now, 40B is the name of a state law that was originally passed to stop communities from saying no to low-income housing. So maybe someone can elaborate on whether they think this is a friendly 40B project. I will say the developer was very cooperative over the weekend. Mark Daigle told WHAV, "We're honored the governor and the Department of Housing and Community Development chose this project to provide much-needed workforce housing to the city of Haverhill." Maybe you have a thought on that. And the big news story of the day, heard only on WHAV, is a woman named Michelle Wilkins of Bradford. She slipped and fell on the ice at John Greenleaf Whittier School on her way to a parent-teacher conference in 2011. Now, only this year, the state's highest court, the Supreme Judicial Court, sent this case back to the lower court in a landmark decision, saying that if an event is open to the public and there's no charge, there is no liability. But if an event is not really open to the public, in other words, just for those attending a parent-teacher conference, state law offers no additional protection. We talked to the attorney for Ms. Wilkins just before this broadcast, and I'll have some updates on that. First of all, you may have heard the thunder and seen the lightning, and you probably just heard wave weather. We're going to bring that report out again probably right after the break to give you an update on the weather. So far, everything is working here, but things do change. So let me give you all the options for listening and watching. You can watch and listen to the program at WHAV.tv on your computer or smartphone. You can also watch on HC Media, formerly known as Haverhill Community Television, Channel 22. You can listen anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to WHAV at WHAV.net on AM radio 1640. And on cable television, usually the background sound behind the bulletin boards, on Andover Channel 8, Haverhill Channel 22, Methuen Channels 8 and 22 on Comcast, Channel 32 on Verizon Fios, Plasto Channel 17 and 23, Sandown Channel 17. Our thanks, as always, go out to the board, staff, management, and members of our local public access TV stations. I'm sorry, Nate, what was that? Okay, so apparently the chat board at justin.tv is not operating. I'll check that myself. If you want to reach me, other than calling the program, 978-374-1900. If you want to send anonymous notes or tidbits or complaining about my wearing what is this pattern called? This kind of tie. What's that pattern called? I know it's on top of my tongue. But anyway, tip of my tongue. Anyway, David Godswood undoubtedly is going to complain that I'm wearing this pattern. What'd you say? No. No, it's Paisley, wearing Paisley with a striped shirt. I do this just to drive David Godswood nuts, loyal Haverhill listener, now living in Florida. Okay, but you can still email me at tcoco, Tcoco, at whav.net. And Nate, how did you hear the chat board was down? David. Okay. So he obviously wanted to write about my tie and couldn't, so maybe he'll email instead. All right, all these introductions. All right, do you work for Market Basket? Have you shopped there? Do you shop there now? Anyone like to call and talk about an update on the Market Basket situation? We'd certainly like any new information we can before we have Dr. Wolff on the program right after the news. Call 978-374-1900. Okay, some of you are waiting for prizes from WHAV, and that's my fault. I'm going to have to make Nate stay after work again some night to make sure I get it done. We will get those out. But this week is the week we're drawing birthday cake and anniversary cake entries for August. So here's your last chance. We're going to draw around 8:15. Nate's going to stay on top of that. If you have a birthday or an anniversary wish, either to yourself or someone in your family or a friend or a neighbor or a coworker, call in with the name, and we'll add it to the hat for drawing at 8:15 tonight. Our thanks go out to LBD's Italian Bakery at 140 South Main Street for providing these cakes free of charge to WHAV listeners. LBD's Italian Bakery, if you haven't been there, you're certainly missing out. They serve Italian bread, cookies, pastries, pizzas, meat pies, and more, not just birthday cakes. Birthday cake and anniversary cake winners will receive a 7-inch cake. They have a choice of vanilla or chocolate. All come with house frosting. So keep that in mind. Our thanks go out to LBD's Italian Bakery. So get those names in. We also had a trivia question last week. Let's see. Is this the one? I think this is the trivia question. All right. Winners will have a choice of one of these, either a War and Victory Trivial Pursuit card pack or a Flicks card pack, Trivial Pursuit. I think Flicks is about movies. So I believe the question is, Rob Zombie of Haverhill played football. Take a guess where. It's not a conventional place to play football. Take a guess. Rob Zombie played football in Haverhill, and I doesn't mean just one area of the city, at both sides of the river. Tell us where, and you can take your pick of one of these cards. Also, if you haven't had a chance to visit the John Greenleaf Whittier birthplace, here's an opportunity. Be the first one to call and just ask. No particular question necessary. We'll provide you with a free admission to the John Greenleaf Whittier birthplace. Nate, I just see this note on the back of one of these. Did we ever get this? Where was Hale's hot dog stand?
We never did, I don't believe so.
What was that for? Was that for one of these?
I don't know.
See, Nate writes these questions, but there's no context.
Where was Hale's? I didn't write this.
Who wrote that?
You did.
That's not my handwriting.
That's a mystery. Oh, that was Jack.
Oh, Jack. Jack, did we ever get a winner for that?
I don't think we did.
All right, so where was Hale's hot dog stand? Trouble is, I don't know the answer.
I don't either.
So I guess we won't be able to give that prize away unless someone wants to give us the answer truthfully and do that. All right. Let's see. We're about 2 minutes away from a very short break. Again, let's just recap some items in the news. We do have a caller? Oh, okay. I didn't see that. You are on the Open Mic Show.
Good evening.
Hi there, Jerry. How are you?
Good. I'm looking forward to the economist, the doctor, the PhD in economy, I'm sure.
That's right.
And that'll be
Dr.
very
Wolff.
interesting.
We're looking forward to hear his observations.
Yeah,
and by the way, listeners, this is
were,
WHAV's environmental consultant.
Will Arthur Truth ever come back? Really? Will the new CEOs get their way? I know I haven't much time, so I just wanted to say that it wasn't always nice and fuzzy with the Mullises. I can recall a sibling of mine that worked there, and she was the bagger or whatever, stocked the shelves. And the union tried to get in. This was a lot of years ago.
Oh, I see.
The union tried to get in. So, like a lot of teenagers, she and a bunch of the teenagers signed the petition. And I guess you know what happened, right? They all got fired, every one of them.
How long ago was that?
Let's see. This particular sibling would be in the 50s now. Yeah. It was early on in the company. Yeah.
So this is back when Mike DeMoores ran the company.
Probably, yeah.
What's interesting? You're actually hitting on something I want to raise with Dr. Wolff, because Unions are pitching the Demoulas Market Basket employees, as I can see on various web pages, and employees are very, very adamant in rejecting an outside union.
Yeah, I know.
But in fact, they are, in a sense, a union themselves already.
Oh, yeah, but see, it's a little different. If they were members of the union, they could have filed unfair labor practice. You know, they could have made it really difficult for a year or so, at least. You know.
Well, what's interesting is WHAV News called the National Labor Relations Board.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
And we got a response back that, here it is here. An NLRB spokesman told WHAV News the supermarket employees are engaged in, quote, protected concerted activity. So they are protected.
I see.
But
wow.
Because they don't have to be a trade union, they just have to work together.
That's a good scoop, Tim.
So,
thanks for doing the research. That was a question that I was really interested in. I didn't think they had any protection, but, you know, I only thought that maybe if you were in a union you had protection, you know?
So apparently National Labor Relations Board rules that they are protected because the legal definition is protected concerted activity. It has to be more than one employee.
Wow, that throws a monkey wrench into the whole, you know, the process of selling off. I
wondered that too, and of course, you know, I saw the Eagle Tribune had a story today. We can talk about our competitors. That some expert they talked to said RDT will never be back.
Yeah, that's what I saw too.
And you know, I guess I'm not ready to rule RD out yet. Because,
I'm not either, but
I mean, he's making
this guy talked like it was a cut and dry, right?
Yeah, I mean, if he buys the company, I'm sure he'll install himself as CEO.
You know what came out though, Tim? And nobody knew, and Arthur D. didn't divulge it. But I think the the two new CEOs are Bain Capital in disguise.
It certainly looks like that, and
there was some kind of deals being at least put forward prior to the. The deposing of Arthur Truth. Yeah,
actually, the court papers are coming out about that. I saw one myself that was filed in January, so before he was fired, by Arthur T., arguing that the way the board is structured after the court case, that there are RDT directors, there are Arthur S. directors, and there are independent directors that the court put in place to make sure this kind of thing wouldn't happen. And RDT argued in a court case, and I don't know that there's been a decision on it, that one of the independent directors, so-called, has previously been a director on Arthur S.'s side. So
so that means that's...
how independent can he be?
She flipped.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, but so how independent? So, anyway, those are the kinds of things that we're going to raise.
Would you almost think that would be a kind of like a conflict of interest?
Well, I think that's what Arthur T. was trying to raise.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So, I don't know what the status of that is, but
I had a couple of subjects but I'll wait until next week because tonight is so important. Next week I would like to talk about the use of pesticides, and because I was listening to a Boston program on Sunday mornings, and one time during the 2 hours did I hear the talk show host say to the people who are listening, who are using, all he was interested in was pushing chemical products, and not once did I hear him say that people who are using these chemical products, which are in many cases kind of hazardous, not one mention of the fact that people who are using them, the buyers, should at least read the directions on the back of the package.
It sounds like good advice, and actually,
Yeah, because John Q. Public, they generally say, well, if a pint of this material with a gallon of water is good, well, maybe 2 pints is better.
No, and that's the way of the world, and the same thing with medication. So
bigger is better, correct? Bigger is better.
You're right. So let's look. I look forward to discussing
that. Next week
that.
we'll talk about that, and then the other thing would be the potential for these little devices that they use for spraying these materials, including fertilizers, but also pesticides in a home. The potential for a cross connection with the public water supply.
Oh yes, I'd love to hear about that. So let's plan on that for next week.
Next week. Maybe.
Well, thank you very much, Jerry. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, we're going to take a brief break for, we have, I believe, Mass Moments is on with a little bit of history about Massachusetts on this day. We'll be right back with more of the Open Mic Show.
Open Mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
This is Phil Christie. When local news breaks, the WAV is there. Only local radio can bring you local news, but only WHAV does.
Catch the wave!
Hi, I'm meteorologist Gary Best. Do you need to know if it's going to be hot or cold, wet or dry? Well, find out every half hour, 7 days a week with WAVE Weather. I'll keep you in touch with up-to-the-minute reports covering the greater Merrimack Valley and beyond. It's WHAV for accurate weather when you want it.
Expect more from Northern Essex. With campuses in Haverhill and Lawrence, Northern Essex Community College is the only state college located in the Lower Merrimack Valley region of Massachusetts. Northern Essex offers over 70 associate degree and certificate programs in the areas of health, business, computers and technology, criminal justice, liberal arts, and more. NECC also provides hundreds of non-credit courses designed for career growth and personal enrichment. For more information, visit necc.mass.edu. Expect more from Northern Essex.
Today is July 28th. On this day in 1907, Earl Tupper, inventor of Tupperware, was born. Raised in central Massachusetts, birthplace of the plastics industry, he was a compulsive tinkerer, inventing, among hundreds of other things, a fish-powered boat. When none of his ventures succeeded, he took a job in a Leominster plastics factory, and in 1938 founded his own company. After much trial and error, he came up with the Wonder Bowl, which had an airtight burping seal. Sales did not take off until a woman named Brownie Wise persuaded him that Tupperware should be sold where it could be demonstrated, at home parties. Thanks to the quality of the product and Brownie Wise's success at mobilizing a sales force of Tupperware ladies, the Massachusetts-based company spawned a global enterprise. For more about this and other Mass Moments, go online to massmoments.org. Brought to you by the Massachusetts Foundation for the Humanities.
Soft gold favorites. WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
And welcome back to the Open Mic Show, a 50-year staple of democracy in the Merrimack Valley. If you're just joining us, just want to remind you that coming up after the news at 7 o'clock, we will have Dr. Richard Wolff, professor of economics, on the program to discuss current developments at Market Basket. But first, I believe we have a birthday cake entry. You are on the Open Mic Show. You're on the Open Mic.
Oh, hi. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. I have a birthday for somebody. His name is Mike Bullen.
Okay, so a birthday from Mike. And Nate has the address information?
Yes, he does.
All right. So it's a birthday. When's Mike's birthday?
August 30. August 31.
All right. So his name will be added to the hat. We'll make that drawing about an hour.
I have a question on Hale's Doghouse. It's right across the street from Pawtucket in Groveland.
What is it? Hale's is right across the street from where?
Pawtucket.
High school?
Yes. That's in Groveland, in Newburyport.
Huh. The problem is Jack didn't leave the certified answer, but I'll tell you what, we'll make a note of that.
Okay.
And if you don't win the cake, we'll see about getting you that prize.
Okay, thank you.
How's that?
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
All right, thanks for listening.
Okay, bye.
Take care. Bye. Okay, just a few minutes before, about 4 minutes before the news at 7 o'clock, we'll have an update on a couple of items. Let me brief listeners on two items that WHAV has today. One, a Haverhill woman, Michelle M. Wilkins, she slipped and fell on ice at John Greenleaf Whittier School on her way to a parent-teacher conference in 2011. Now, the city case was that it did not have to pay damages for her injuries, which include a frozen shoulder and chronic pain. The city argued that it didn't have to pay damages because it is immune. In other words, it cannot sue the city or any landowner for that matter if there is a free educational use or free recreational use open to the public. But as it turns out, so the city won at Essex County Superior Court, but it lost at the state's highest court, the Supreme Judicial Court, because the justices of the state Supreme Court carved out an exception saying a parent-teacher conference by its very nature is not open to the public. But rather,
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the...
All right, that was a little early. But in any event, all this stuff throws me off when I'm talking. But in any event, the city lost at the SJC. The Supreme Judicial Court said that if it were to allow semi-public events to be protected from liability, that would undermine the entire purpose of the statute the legislature intended. However, the Supreme Judicial Court did not decide the merits of the case, rather sending that back to Superior Court. And we heard from Michelle Wilkins over the weekend. She said, the city is pushing back. My intention going into this was never money. It was principle and principle only. No money in the world is going to fix the medical issues I have now that are permanent. However, the city isn't quite ready to settle, and this could still go to trial. All right, do you want me to work in this call? Is there someone on this line? You're on the open mic. Well, okay. This is pretty confusing sometimes here. Okay. In any event, we're about a minute before news. The other big story that if you live in the Bradley Brook neighborhood, sometime early next year, they'll be breaking ground for 144 low-income apartments. Those will be on West Lowell Avenue. And the development will be known as Tenney Place. Now, I grew up in that area, so I'm assuming this is the Tenney family. I know Baron Tenney lived there. The company is called Dakota Partners of Waltham. They're planning 72 affordable units for families, 56 affordable units, and 8 units for households earning less than 30%. These will be 4 3- to 4-story apartment buildings, a freestanding community building with fitness center, and so on. The state, Governor Patrick announced earlier this month, the state is putting up $83.6 million for these kinds of housing projects, and apparently Dakota's project is winning benefits. The Governor Patrick said the state supports Dakota project with the federal and state low-income housing tax credits, federal home investment partnerships program money, and state bond subsidies. He said the city also supports the project, and in fact, we looked this up. The city, in a report to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, called the project a friendly 40B. All right, we're going to go to local news, national news, and then we'll be back with Dr. Richard Wolff, economics professor, to talk about current developments in the market basket situation. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Open mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
It's 7:02.
WHAV Merrimack Valley. WHAV is a not-for-profit service of Public Media of New England Incorporated. It's heard on 1640 AM, the web, at whav.net, and participating cable television stations.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. The United Nations Security Council has called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Rocket attacks appeared to lessen overnight, but no formal truce has been agreed to. Nick Harper reports from the UN headquarters in New York.
At the emergency meeting that took place just after midnight into Monday morning, the Security Council said an immediate and unconditional humanitarian ceasefire was needed. It was a unanimous call for a durable truce that would allow for humanitarian access and time to negotiate a longer-term peace. However, there's disappointment this was a presidential statement rather than a stronger, more formal resolution. The Palestinian representative at the UN, Riyad Mansour, expressed concern that the statement didn't go far enough, while Israel's ambassador, Ron Prosser, accused the Security Council of anti-Israel bias, as the statement did not mention Hamas by name.
The United Nations also says the downing of Malaysian jet MH17 over Ukraine may amount to a war crime. This follows the latest report from the UN stating that at least 1,129 people have died in the conflict. William Denslow has the latest.
According to Ukrainian officials on Monday, MH17's data recorders indicate a rocket caused massive explosive decompression that brought down the plane. Both Ukrainian authorities and pro-Russian separatists blame each other for the crash that killed all 298 people on board. Stating that these actions may amount to war crimes, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights Navi Pillay says anyone committing serious violations of international law will be brought to justice.
The economy of the EU could be harmed by up to €40 billion this year as part of sectoral economic sanctions against Russia, according to the European Commission. Diplomats from across the 28 EU member states are working through the legal documents for sanctions before approving the measures, expected to happen on Tuesday. Here's Europe correspondent Jack Perrick.
Predictions are the EU's GDP will take a 0.3% hit by implementing the capital markets restrictions and trade bans on defence and high-tech goods. Italy, for instance, which has a struggling economy, is concerned these restrictions will place them back into recession. But German Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier said Russia had given the EU no other option by supporting the pro-Russian rebels in eastern Ukraine. The Russian economy is expected to lose €23 billion this year through the sanctions. That's 1.5% of its GDP. The International Monetary Fund was already predicting a slowdown in Russian growth. The EU hopes these measures will force President Putin to cooperate over the Ukraine crisis by threatening his weakened economy. Jack Parrock, Brussels.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Here's what's happening in local news. Ground will be broken early next year for 144 low-income apartments on West Lowell Avenue in Haverhill now that state funding is in place. The development will be known as Tenney Place. Dakota Partners of Waltham plans 72 affordable units for families, 56 affordable units, and 8 units for households earning less than 30% of area median income. There will be 4 3- to 4-story apartment buildings, a freestanding community building with fitness center, community spaces, and tot lot. Apartments contain a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. Quote, affordable housing helps to generate jobs, grow local businesses, and strengthen our communities, said Governor Deval Patrick earlier this month when announcing $83.6 million for housing projects. Quote, government's role is to help people help themselves, and sustainable affordable housing will create growth and opportunity in our communities that will last for generations to come, end quote. Developer Mark Daigle told WHAV, quote, we are honored that the governor and DHCD chose this project to provide much-needed workforce housing to the city of Haverhill, end quote. He said the project previously was granted a comprehensive permit from the city's Zoning Board of Appeals. The city called the project a friendly 40B project in a March report to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Chapter 40B is a state law allowing streamlined comprehensive permitting for low-income housing. A Salem, New Hampshire woman accused of repeat drunk driving is facing new charges in Haverhill after her arrest over the weekend. Haverhill police report 37-year-old Carrie Gilbert of Salem, New Hampshire was arrested early Saturday on Altamont Street. She is charged with operating under the influence of liquor, third offense, as well as operating a motor vehicle after license revocation, subsequent offense. Other charges include negligent operation of a motor vehicle and operating under the influence while license was suspended for OUI. In other police news, a Haverhill man is due to be arraigned in Haverhill District Court on multiple charges for alleged theft involving false checks. Haverhill Police report 26-year-old Tyler Beauregard of Haverhill was arrested at police headquarters Saturday following an investigation. He is charged with 4 counts of larceny by check, ordering a false check, and forgery of a check. He was also charged with single counts of breaking and entering a building and larceny over $250. He was also arrested on 3 outstanding warrants. In sports, WHAV's Nate Webster has this week's NASCAR race recap.
Jeff Gordon kisses the bricks for the 5th time at this weekend's Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This win meant a lot to him 20 years after his first win at his home track.
You never know when your next win's going to come, and we've been close a couple of times to getting number 5, but it's just a special place, and I love racing here. Got a little bit behind at times. Pit strategy changed for some people, and it threw some things off, and I think it made for a great race. So that was awesome, just awesome.
Gordon took the lead from Casey Kane with 17 laps to go when Kane had issues with dirty tires and couldn't get enough grip to get a good restart. Trouble on the restart after the competition caution, causing a bottleneck behind him, and again on pit road when his gas man slipped trying to add a second can of fuel during a 4-tire pit stop. Caution came out for Danica Patrick when she lost a rear gear coming off pit road. Denny Hamlin chose to stay out while others pitted, but that strategy backfired later in the race. Nate Webster, WHAV Sports.
Remember, WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source, and it's always free. In the Edwin V. Johnson newsroom, this is Dana Esmel.
Wave weather.
I'm WHAV meteorologist Rob St. Pierre with Wave Weather. Showers and thunderstorms tonight will continue to ease off. It'll be partly to mostly cloudy as we head toward daybreak. Temperatures will be falling back to about 60. Now keep in mind, if you run into one of these thunderstorms, could still be some heavy rainfall out there. On your Tuesday, it's partly to mostly sunny, maybe a sprinkle or shower in the morning, a high 77. It'll be much drier too. Mostly clear and 56 Tuesday night, sunshine Wednesday 75. I'm WHAV meteorologist Rob St. Pierre. Your next wave weather in 30 minutes.
WHAV is on Facebook. For quick access, visit WHAV.net and click on the Facebook icon.
WHAV, Merrimack Valley. Open mic.
From the Edwin B. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
Welcome back to the Open Mic Show, a 50-year staple of democracy in the Merrimack Valley. This hour of the Open Mic Show is being brought to you by Northern Essex Community College. Expect more at Northern Essex. Okay, on the line now is Dr. Richard Wolff, Professor of Economics Emeritus, University of Massachusetts Amherst, where he taught economics from 1973 to 2008. He's currently a visiting professor in the graduate program in International Affairs of the New School University, New York City. Welcome, Dr. Wolff.
Thank you very much. Glad to be with you.
All right, last week, we started a discussion with you, and I was very, very pleased that you picked up on it. And in fact, you may have gained a new affiliate for Economic Update. We ran your program last Thursday and repeated it on Friday because of the great interest in this subject locally. So thank you very much.
I'm glad of it. And I think, the reason I picked up on it for my program was that it really has enormous ramifications all over the United States. And so it struck me, my show is now in about 35 cities across the country, that it was important for working people in lots of other places in America to know about what was going on here, to understand the issues, and particularly to appreciate the initiative taken by the Market Basket, the workers there. Very important.
Well, what I found interesting, a little background, this is a largely blue-collar area, but also decidedly anti-union as well. I can't think of a politically correct analogy except to say it's kind of an Archie Bunker conservative. And what I found interesting in this is that many of the workers who were picketing and essentially striking, didn't see themselves as a union. But the National Labor Relations Board says they will protect them as if they were, because it's a concerted, protected activity. So I found this interesting, that a spontaneous development from people who would normally wouldn't consider a union were in fact acting as though they were. And is that how we change perceptions of unions, you think?
Absolutely. I think what we're seeing is that, for 50 years, the union movement in terms of its numbers has been declining in the United States. And a major part of that decline has been the very bad reputation, let's call it, that unions have acquired, partly because of the endless hostility of employers, but partly brought on the unions their own fault. I mean, they did things they shouldn't have done. They got involved in activities that alienated them from the public. But the irony is, and I think that's what's happening here, is that whatever the mistakes the unions made, the fact of the matter is that the idea of a union is as relevant today as it was in the past. And it's a very simple idea, which is where the word union comes from, that workers have greater strength bargaining with the employer, if they band together as a union, bargaining as a group, than they can possibly have as individuals. If you bargain with your employer as a single person, that's all you are, is a single person, and it really loads the chips on his side, the employer's side, excuse me, of the table. Whereas if the workers together go to the employer and say they have issues they want to negotiate it, then they have much greater strength. And I think what is happening here is that in the case of the market basket, workers who were concerned about what it would mean to lose the chief executive officer who was pushed out and have the power in the company shift to the other side, that if they didn't act as a group, individually expressing their concerns would have had literally no effect.
Now, you often speak on your programs, and again, WHAV listeners are familiar with you because you've been a guest on the David Pakman Show, which airs Tuesday through Fridays on WHAV. But you talk about worker-directed enterprise, and I'm wondering if you... I know you don't have a crystal ball, but Arthur T., the so-called good author, has pledged to buy the company. Now, I imagine he's going to, despite his own wealth, to buy the other half of the company probably means taking on quite a bit of debt. If you were advising, and maybe you would never take on this role, but if you were advising Arthur T., do you think some portion of employee ownership would be something he should consider?
Absolutely, and frankly, I'd be surprised if he wasn't, in fact, already getting the advice from all kinds of people to do that, especially if raising money for part of this transaction is something that he would have to do. And here's the logic of it. The idea would be to give all of the workers there some degree of ownership, some degree of membership on the board of directors and so forth. And in exchange, I think workers, if they got that kind of position, knowing that they now would have a real voice in running the company, that they would have a voice not only in the daily activities, but what kinds of basic strategic decisions are made by the company, whether it moves, whether it invests its money this way or that, whether it makes available a decent pension for workers and so on, that workers would be willing to make all kinds of contributions to a new enterprise in which they were part of the ownership and part of the directing of the enterprise. And I think not only would that be a way for Arthur T. to get all kinds of enthusiastic workers who now have a commitment for the simple and ancient reason that if you have so-called skin in the game, if this company's success is something that matters to you not only as a worker there, but also as part of the ownership and the directorship, you're going to get more and better work out of your workers. And that is well known. And I think if Arthur T. did that, he would be on stronger footing, for example, if he went to local banks to get loans, that being able to say, not only will I put up my wealth, but I'm going to have an enthusiastic, committed, and very productive labor force because of this new way that I'm organizing it, so that the loan you give me will be more secure than it would be if you did it in the conventional sort of way. And this is happening around the country, actually more and more over the recent years, and I think it would be relevant there.
Well, that's very interesting. So I guess I was not completely out of line thinking that way.
Not at all.
Now, as we speak, the board of directors is apparently meeting. We obviously don't know what they're doing, but they say, and I believe this is true under the law, they have a fiduciary obligation to look at the bid of Arthur T. Demoulas. It's interesting because it isn't public, so I'm not sure what ramifications there are there on just a spiteful rejection of anything. But according to the Boston Globe today, the chain is losing as much as $10 million a day in sales and spoiled products because of the walkout and boycott by customers. So it seems like there'd be a little bit of incentive for the board to make a quick decision. But you wrote last week to me that you didn't foresee this coming to a conclusion anytime soon. Do you still think that's the case?
Well, it sounds like there may be changes happening that would alter the prognosis. I did not know at the time I wrote that to you that there was the kind of boycott and that the boycott had the size that you're suggesting. That would mean that the folks there on the existing board of directors have a very serious problem on their hands, because if they handle this badly, if they reach a decision that the people now protesting will not like, if they do that particularly in a way that seems high-handed or disrespectful of their customer base, then they face long-term difficulties. Even if they win the board vote, and even if they win in court thereafter, they're going to be dealing with a community of customers and the political representatives, because I saw that several of your local political folks were supporting this pressure on the company. They would have then very, very hard time in the future. They would be losing customers. Customers have alternatives in terms of supermarkets and so on. They would also face the fact that this is a kind of an alert to all of the market basket stores, not only the ones where there's been some activity already, but others that may not have yet come to a certain kind of conclusion. They're going to be watching all of this and paying attention. This is a level of bad publicity for a company that normally costs millions of dollars in public relations to undo, and so the pressure is ratcheting up, and it may not, in fact, take very long before this company realizes that if they don't resolve these internal difficulties among the family members who run it, that they're going to all be the loser as this company suffers seriously. Your listeners may want to know that in general, supermarkets work on a very small margin. That is, the percentage of profit is very small, but it adds up because so much stuff is sold in these stores. But they really don't have a lot of maneuverability. If a significant amount of stuff is rotting on the shelves, is not moving, is sitting there, it can have a very big impact on the profits of the company, which is a powerful persuader.
Now, you mentioned on your program last week something that I thought was maybe an analogy, but you talked about in medieval times, and I don't have the exact quote, how the peasants would overthrow the king in favor of a better player, right. And so this is not unprecedented, what's happening. It just maybe hasn't happened in a long time. Is that what you would say?
Exactly. I think I wanted people to recognize that there is a kind of sequence of stages in society, that when things are becoming intolerable, when there's a kind of slow, steady erosion of the economic well-being of the large majority of people, it takes years for the sense to build up that this is not going to be turned around anytime soon, that this is a long-term decline, that this is a kind of assault on basic expectations in life. And frankly, I think that's exactly what's going on in the American people now, the way it did in other cultures, including our own at earlier times in our history. And I chose the example from medieval time because one of the things that happens when finally people begin to act is they act in a kind of minimal way. So they prefer not to threaten or challenge the system as a whole. They don't want to make big waves. So they take the step, and there are even Shakespearean plays about this in medieval England, where they express themselves modestly and tentatively in favor of one king or another, in favor of one duke as opposed to his cousin, because they can see that the one would be better for them than the other one. As time passes, as either they succeed or fail, but the basic contours of their situation don't change, then they kind of take the next step, which is to say to one another and to the larger world, why are we spending all of our effort to choose between one absolute monarch as opposed to another, one king or one lord of the manor as another? Because the real problem isn't to get the better of these two, but to change the basic system so that we're not dependent on somebody else making a decision, but rather we collectively make the decision. So in the past, you got rid of the king. You stopped choosing between King A and King B, and you said, we don't want a monarchy, we want a representative democracy as a fundamental system alternative, because we don't want to be in the position of choosing the good guys versus the bad guys, but leaving them in the position of having inordinate amount of power. And I was simply suggesting that if things continue the way they looked at the time I wrote to you, well, then I think the workers in Market Basket, like workers across America, are being slowly drawn down the path where they're going to realize that what they really need is not to be dependent on Arthur T versus Arthur S. They shouldn't be dependent on the whim of an individual. They should be democratically able to shape the decisions of an enterprise that they all have to live with. They all help to produce the profits of the company. Why then aren't they part of the decision-making apparatus to decide what to do with those profits? That's the kind of question that occurs to people when they've come to the end of feeling that their activity or their activism is simply limited to choosing which other person will control them.
Very, very interesting. Do you think, and maybe you even know, but do you think that this is having this whole dispute, which apparently is sustained and amazingly very well sustained with massive customer boycotts as well as picketing workers, do you think anyone is worrying in other boardrooms?
Absolutely. I think that it's not so much that they're worrying because of the particularity of the Market Basket story. They're worrying because these stories are now popping up more often in more diverse situations. On my radio program, I tried to hint at this or to give a gesture in that direction by pointing out that in the same week that I learned about Market Basket, I also learned about the remarkable activity of a committee in Seattle, Washington, literally the other end of our country, in which people had also decided that they weren't going to be passive anymore. In this case, it was a retired former military man, a veteran of I think one or two of the wars the United States has had, a man who has to function in a wheelchair because he was badly wounded, and he's I think in his 60s or 70s, an older man, and his wife were being evicted by the local sheriff in Seattle because they were in a fight about their mortgage with the bank that had lent to them, and the fight wasn't resolved. That is, it was going through the courts, but apparently some rule there enabled the bank to call the sheriff and have him go out in the usual way, basically to evict this wheelchair-bound U.S. veteran and his wife from their home of many years. And the rumor swept the city, and several hundred people went to the house. The sheriff was already in the process of taking them, I guess, to some shelter or wherever it is you take people that you throw out of their home. And the people sat down. No violence, no, they just sat down huge number of them, all around the sheriff's car, basically saying, we're not going to let this happen. This should not be happening. And there were so many people involved, and they were such sort of solid Seattle citizens, that the mayor came, and the mayor looked at the situation, talked to everybody, and told the sheriff to go back to his office and leave the two people in the house, that it should go through the courts before anything is done like this. In other words, this was a small little victory of people who could make a difference because they stood up for what they believed. In the long run, I don't know whether the fellow will keep his house or not. It's not, it's not a decisive victory, if you want to call it that. But it is, to answer your question, it's another straw in the wind that people have reached a point where they kind of understand that the economic contours of the United States are continuing to change in such a way as to make a very small part of our population extremely wealthy, and virtually everybody else either poor or increasingly anxious about whatever it is they have and the future for their kids. And I don't find it at all surprising that slowly but steadily a growing number of these people are not willing to remain passive and watch this process continue.
No, I couldn't agree with you more, and I frankly welcome the development, and I hope that it may be someday read about in history books as the latest Tea Party of sorts.
Exactly.
Pardon the term.
It's going to be looked at as a kind of event early in a process, but that pointed towards what then would become much more common.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Wolff. We really appreciate that you took the time to share your views with listeners. We look forward to hearing you in the future, whether it's on this program or through your own program, Economic Update. But we thank you very much for your time tonight.
It's my pleasure, and I really appreciate that there are stations like yours, which I'm discovering all across the United States, that are themselves part of this changing landscape. And it's very, very welcome for many, many people to hear it, to see it, and to feel part of it. So thank you as much for all that you're doing.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that. Have a great night.
You too.
Right. That was Dr. Richard Wolff, Professor of Economics Emeritus, University of Massachusetts, Amherst. We'll evaluate more of what Dr. Wolff had to say, and perhaps you'll want to join the discussion. Call 978-374-1900, and we'll take a brief break for weather. I haven't heard any, we're in a metal building, and I haven't heard any rumbles lately, so maybe the worst is over, but we'll hear the weather forecast, and we'll be back with more of the Open Mic Show.
Open Mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
It's 7:33.
Try listening to WHAV in your car or anywhere on your mobile phone. For fast access, visit WHAV.net.
Catch the wave!
The most trusted man in America, news anchor Walter Cronkite, once said, "It is absolutely essential in a democracy to have competition in the media, a lot of competition." That sentiment is one of the driving forces behind WHAV's expanded local news effort. This is News Director Dana Esmail inviting you to listen to my hourly weekday newscasts right here on WHAV. You'll also find the area's most comprehensive local news reporting at WHAV.net on your computer or smartphone. Remember, WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source, and it's always free.
And that's the way it is.
Wave weather.
I'm WHAV meteorologist Rob St. Pierre with WAVE weather. Showers and thunderstorms tonight will continue to ease off. It'll be partly to mostly cloudy as we head toward daybreak. Temperatures will be falling back to about 60. Now keep in mind, if you run into one of these thunderstorms, could still be some heavy rainfall out there. On your Tuesday, it's partly to mostly sunny, maybe a sprinkle or a shower in the morning, a high 77. It'll be much drier, too. Mostly clear and 56 Tuesday night, sunshine Wednesday, 75. I'm WHAV meteorologist Rob St. Pierre. Your next WAVE weather in 30 minutes.
Catch the wave, WHAV, open mic.
From the Edwin B. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
It was a great pleasure to have Dr. Richard Wolff on the program with his insight. I was particularly pleased to hear some encouraging words about the possibility of Arthur T. DeMois considering a worker-directed enterprise. He's certainly going to have to go somewhat in debt to buy out the other side of the family, and by involving employees in perhaps a partially employee-owned company, he's going to buy some financing help, certainly going to buy even more loyalty than he has now. I wonder what some of you are thinking about that. Just a reminder, this hour of the Open Mic Show is being brought to you by the Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council. Smart companies choose the Merrimack Valley. We have a call. You are on the Open Mic Show.
Hello, Tim.
Hi there, how are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Good. Fired up. How's that?
Okay, fired up. I couldn't tune in last week. I was away, but here I am.
Oh, I'm glad you're here.
A couple of birthdays in two different directions, and one is Tina, one is Pat.
All right. Tina and Pat. Is Pat a male or a female?
Female.
I always wonder about all these females you nominate, but that's okay. All right. So birthdays?
Yep.
All right. So they're going to go in the hat, and I think you had another one in from last month that missed the deadline.
Yep.
So the hat is quite full. Nate just flashed it. So we'll try again, and our thanks go out to Albie D's Italian Bakery in Bradford for providing these birthday and anniversary cakes. Have you any observations on the market basket dispute?
Well,
I know you live right across the street from one.
That's right, and I can always hear them honking their horns and chanting and all that kind of thing, and I wish they would just jolly well get it done.
Yeah, so...
I'm worried, though, that Arthur S. is going to just sell to some other chain just... because he can. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, that was the fear I raised with Dr. Wolff. You know, is it all about the money, or is there some spite maybe going to be involved in this mix?
Well, it could be a little of both. I don't know. I mean, I don't know who the other bids come from, but I know for a number of years that the DeMoulis family has had the monopoly in Haverhill.
No, a matter of fact, you know, I suppose that's the darker side of the DeMoulis saga, probably under Mike DeMoulis, but you know, I don't know how much of this is legend and how much is fact, so I'll put this disclaimer out there, but I understood that the old A&P in Riverside stayed boarded up and closed because Market Basket held the lease and didn't want any other store to go there, at least until they were ready to open one, which I think took 20 or 30 years.
That could be true. You know, it may be true.
And
but at the same time, though, I know that Mike DeMoulis did not want to open up Central Plaza. He was talked into that by one of our former mayors.
You know, I often, you know, I do often think about this because, you know, I'm kind of fixated on urban renewal. But if, you know, maybe this is something we'll raise. I'm somewhat surprised that they ended up down there as well. So it sounds like what you're saying makes sense. If only they could reverse everything and put the building on Water Street and the parking behind it, we might come closer to having a downtown on Water Street again.
Well,
but
we're
that's
never going to have the downtown that we once knew. I know that.
Yeah, I know.
And everybody's really flipping over what they read or look at in renderings and that kind of thing.
Well,
I'm not impressed, but
You're not?
No, not at all.
What are your thoughts on that then?
Well, my thoughts are that if they're going to go in this direction, they may as well put a skyscraper down there. 14 floors, a restaurant on top, that kind of thing.
What are you saying? That is that sarcasm?
In a way it is.
Okay.
We're not going to have what we did before, and everybody, they're settling for like a 5 and a 6 story building, and I say, big deal.
Yeah, it's dropped a couple of stories since it was conceived, so maybe there'll be further changes to it. I mean,
renderings always look better than what you're actually going to get.
Well, it's funny, and I don't want to offend anyone, and I'm very likely to do that, so I'll try to be careful, but I think it's too late. The Pentucket Medical Building downtown. It's wonderful that Pentucket Medical came down. I think Partners has since purchased the business. I think the building remains locally owned. But it certainly was a bit disappointing in its outward appearance. And I'm trying to remember, I think, was it, I don't remember who said it. Was it Barney Gallagher? He said it looked like a state prison.
That could be. That sounds like something you'd say.
I mean, I'm not sure
well,
what...
also, you could say the same about Mara Vista. I, as a child, I was a kid when that went up, I was disappointed in the way that came out because it didn't remind me of the rendering that I saw in the paper.
No, and unfortunately... I mean, the worst time in the world to have ever been building anything was in the late 60s and 70s, when we had this, what do they call it, brutal architecture?
I don't know what you call it.
But it certainly seems fitting if that's what it's called.
Uh-huh.
But, I mean, even one Water Street, and I know we have some listeners there, so this is not, I'm not insulting the residents, but that ugly stone, whatever that is called.
Stucco?
Well, it's not even that. It's that kind of, it's really just cinder block with a texture, I guess.
Right.
But, and I guess Pentucket Medical, at least with brick and the kind of the, what's that called, a hip roof, I suppose was a little better. But I don't know. So I guess I know exactly what you mean. Will we be happily surprised, or will we be continue to be disappointed?
Well, no, I think that people will be seeing anything at all as an improvement.
Well, that's true.
That's the way people are thinking. Anything at all is an improvement. So it doesn't matter what you do. It's going to be an improvement, I mean.
Well, I suppose that's true, although I'm sure you remember the term Dust Bowl.
Oh, I do, yeah.
And, I'm just hoping that whatever comes down, something goes up pretty quickly.
Maybe too quickly?
Yeah, see, that I have to say, I'm actually going to yell at myself for that, because I think that was part of the problem with Pentucket Urban Renewal Project, is that there was a lot of pressure to put anything there.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, if we had waited, maybe we'd still be waiting.
You might be, yeah.
So
that could be, but I'll tell you what, though, I sure do miss those old days, but that was a different age, a whole different era that we'll never see again, so...
I know, and I know that a lot of the politicians say, well, and correctly to some extent, you can't go back, you can only go forward. But I say that if we're going to go forward, let's at least learn the mistakes of the past. And I don't know. I don't think that message resonates well. I mean, when I saw Team Haverhill with their dreams, and I'm not against dreams, but they had this giant amphitheater on Water Street replacing the electric company's substation, I thought to myself, these are people who have no understanding of this city's history.
Mm-hmm.
You know, take it down. And, you know, if urban renewal, with all of that money, couldn't afford to take the electric substation, I can't imagine any other group that would.
No, not at all.
So we shall see. But anyway, I always enjoy getting into urban renewal with you. So we'll see how that goes. And
it'll be living with me for the rest of my life.
That's right. Well, you lived it.
I did.
And to some extent are still living it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, but hopefully...
I'm saddened by it, too, though, to a point, you know, because I look at my house that I could never afford to really fix up, and that I had a shot at something, but because of local politics, those hopes are just dashed altogether.
No, and right there on the precipice, if I may, of the urban renewal district. I mean, that's why I had to go over there. I had to go over to see.
I'm glad you did, because I wouldn't have had pictures otherwise.
Well, and then you got some after, so which were very sad. All right. Well, thank you very much for calling in. We're going to wish. I already forgotten their names. Birthday.
Tina was one of them, and Pat was the other.
Tina and Pat. Their names are in the hat. We really thank you for calling in.
All right, Tim. You
Take
have a
care.
Good night.
Bye. You too. All right. We're going to take a brief break. This hour, I believe we have Dawn of the Planet of the Apes movie review. And if I'm wrong, just pretend I didn't say that. We'll be back with more of the Open Mic Show after that.
Open Mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
This is Phil Christie. Listen to The Wave with fewer interruptions, no pop-ups, and a choice of players by tuning directly from www.whav.net.
Merrimack Valley Happenings is your weekly guide to economic news and cultural events. It's a quick read about local business, the economy, and higher education. It also features an all-in-one calendar of business, cultural, and recreational events. View Merrimack Valley Happenings online or sign up for a weekly email at merrimackvalley.info.
Catch the wave!
Those political sound bites you hear on the news are, at best, incomplete and could be misleading or even outright lies. This is David Pakman. Take time to delve into the truth by listening to The David Pakman Show, Tuesday through Friday nights at 8 on WHAV. Lack of logic and reason are exposed on The David Pakman Show as newsmakers collapse under cross-examination. Remember, only local radio can bring you this talk opportunity, but only WHAV does.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. This week, a new dawn for a venerable franchise. We can thank the 60s for lots of things. One would be the rise of analogous science fiction, a part of which was the 1963 French novel by Pierre Boulle, which became the 68 classic film Planet of the Apes. The latest prequel, and last before a 2016 remake of the original, is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, where a remnant of human society is hanging on in San Francisco with the apes encampment nearby in the Muir Woods. The humans' desire to access a hydroelectric facility in ape territory brings the two groups into contact, which quickly becomes conflict. Amongst the apes, the wise and restrained Caesar, played by Andy Serkis, has to deal with the militant and distrustful Koba, and on the human side, a similar dynamic exists between the near-genocidal Dreyfus, Gary Oldman, and the level-headed engineer Malcolm, who leads the project to fix the dam. If there's anyone out there wondering how a random criminal act in a real-world Middle Eastern country of today can degenerate into a full-scale war in a few weeks' time, this is the movie that, by analogy, lays that out. The look and feel of director Matt Reeves' film is amazing. It's nice to see CGI being used for the sublime instead of the ridiculous for a change. It's hard to tell where the high-tech costume design ends and the special effects begin, but much as in Rise of, the last one, the result is ape characters whose get-ups are not a distraction. The post-apocalyptic human environment has been seen before, but the ape village portrayed is striking and informed in its design. If the world's future is a bit better than that imagined at the end of this one, we'll be treated dedicated to sequels for years to come. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. Catch up with us at Take2MovieReview.com and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Take2_Review.
WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin B. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
Welcome back to the Open Mic Show. This hour of the Open Mic Show is being brought to you by the Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council. Smart companies choose the Merrimack Valley. Okay, people are getting their birthday and anniversary cake entries in. I think 3 tonight. So here's your chance. We're going to make that drawing in less than a half hour. So call, wish someone a happy birthday or a happy anniversary if that event takes place in August. And get in your entries. We're going to put them in the official Chinese cowboy hat, as Jack Bevilacqua always called it. We're going to draw the winner. The winner will, whether it's yourself or someone you named, will receive a letter in the mail. I know we owe one, I think, to Annette, and Annette we owe Whittier ticket to, right? We owe something to somebody. We'll try to catch up on those after the program tonight. But you'll receive a letter, then give Albie D's Italian Bakery in Bradford a call and let them know what you want, vanilla or chocolate, and they'll prepare it fresh for you to pick up. You present your original WHAV letter, and that is sort of your proof that you won, and you'll be able to take home that wonderful birthday or anniversary cake. All right. Nate informs me there are 7 entries in the hat now. So the odds are actually better than they were last month, because last month, maybe because we had 2 different months to kick off the contest. Last month, probably twice that at least. So get your birthday cake, anniversary cake entries in. All you have to do to win a prize is to call me. You have to talk to me. So if you're shy, toughen up, call me, 978-374-1900. Now, we're also, David Goudswood rewrote the question for me because my memory isn't very good. Let's see. David Goudswood writes, as my computer catches up, Rob Zombie was interviewed by Rolling Stones a number of years back and was very critical of his hometown of Haverhill. He complained there was nothing to do downtown as a teenager, no bowling, no movies, no arcades. So, to keep busy, he and his pals would improvise and play football in the only available space. Where did Rob Zombie play football? Take a guess or answer it authoritatively, and then you'll take your choice of one of these 2 mini packs from our friends at Kimball Tavern Antiques. These are mini Trivial Pursuit games, shrink-wrapped, fully brand new, what they might call new old stock. The choices are War and Victory or flicks, movies. So our thanks go out to Kimball Tavern Antiques at the corner of Salem and South Main Street for providing these gifts so that anyone who wants to take a stab at the Rob Zombie question. And the other prize we have, no trivia questions, no jumping through hoops. All you have to do is hold the phone over your head and scream like a chicken. Now, that's from an old Dick Van Dyke show. All you have to do is ask, and we'll give you 1 free admission to the John Greenleaf Whittier birthplace, 305 Whittier Road in Haverhill, near the Merrimack border. Seems to me there's something else I'm supposed to do, but I think we'll go to the phones. You are on the Open Mic Show.
Good evening.
Yes.
Tim, how are you? This is Kenny.
Oh, hi there. How are you?
I'm very good. I just put an entry in for my mom's birthday, which is August 5th.
Happy birthday. What's your mom's name?
Alice.
Alice.
Yep.
Happy birthday, Alice. We now have 8 entries. Kenny, how's it going? Are you campaigning?
Well, I'm campaigning for people for office, and the governor's race, lieutenant governor, and attorney general right now. I'm all, me, political junkie that I am, that I love.
All right, can we put you on the spot and ask you who you're supporting for governor?
Martha Coakley.
Martha Coakley. Okay, and what were the other races?
Lieutenant Governor Michael Lake.
Michael Lake.
And Warren Tolman for attorney general.
You're supporting Warren Tolman. Okay.
Yeah, and that is it. I'm not anybody else. Forget it. No, I'm just voting for those 3. That's it. I'm not going to get into the other races, so to speak.
All right, well, listeners, it is election season, so if you want to be brave like Kenny just was and call in your choices for elected office, we're taking those calls now through the primary in September, which amazingly, Kenny, you know this from running for city council.
Right.
The election season seems like at the beginning that it's a long time.
Yeah, and I'm ready for next year already. Once their elections are over, I'm ready to go. Start
All
the
right.
ball rolling again for council race.
All right, so you heard it here first. Ken Quimby, candidate for Haverhill City Council.
No.
Not this year, next year when local elections take place.
Now, I'm going to ask you on the spot, is there any updates on the situation with Market Basket yet?
Yes, well, I don't know if you heard the program. We had Dr. Richard Wolff, economics professor, on at 7:05.
I missed it.
And, we're playing with some thoughts on this. But right now, in actual news, we know that warehouse workers, market basket workers, were turned away this morning from their jobs. Even though the new management there said that if people came back to work today, there would be no reprisals. So we're wondering. We also know, maybe it's over by now, but just as we were starting the program tonight, the board of directors of Market Basket were scheduled to meet and discuss the offer to purchase by Arthur T. DeMuller. So there's news, except, as usual, it's the board that isn't really talking, so we don't know what the other side is saying.
What else is new? What else?
Have you been on the picket lines? Or?
No, I haven't been asked, but I wish I did. I think it would have been something I would have done, definitely, and so forth, Tim.
All right. Well, Kenny, thank you very much for your call.
All right.
And say happy birthday to your mother for us.
I will do that. And you take care and be safe, my friend.
You too. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. That call sounded a little distant, but I don't know if it was just my equipment or it sounded distant on your side. It might just be my headphone that always falls out of my ear. We can't afford anything special here. So, hey, maybe that's a good thing that I can bring up now. As you may be aware, WHAV has filed an application with the Federal Communications Commission. We started with 3 other competitors. WHAV is down to 1 other competitor, and we're very confident that WHAV will be selected, at least if the Federal Communications Commission follows their own rules. One of the requirements of this class of station is to provide at least 32 hours a week of local programming. WHAV's competitor plans no local programming, at least according to the exhibit they put on their application with the Federal Communications Commission. Now, the Federal Communications Commission has started making decisions on the West Coast, and they're gradually moving east. The decision could be made any time now, but the bills are still coming in. Lawyers' costs, we have Washington lawyers, special communication lawyers. We have engineers, and not to mention the fact that we do run a station 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether it's on FM or not. So all of the equipment you see around me has to be maintained and paid for. So I'd ask you now if you'd consider becoming a WHAV member. If you're a student or a senior citizen, just $10. If you're feeling a little more generous, regular members, $25 and up. Leadership Circle starts at $100. You can make a one-time payment to have your membership for 1 year, but you can also choose an option to make a monthly payment. You can do this all online from the convenience of your home with your favorite debit or credit card. Just go to WHAV.net and click on membership. But Nate, has nothing to do. He disagrees. Nothing to do, except he's going to read some poetry after the break. But he can take your credit card right over the phone, or he'll give you the address where you can send a check. If you've looked at WHAV.net lately, you'll see that WHAV has become the most comprehensive and original local news source. And it's always free, as our news director Dana Esmol says. So keep that in mind. Your contributions are welcome and necessary so that there is competition in the media. And you can see the effect of competition on WHAV's website. Lots of local news, and including 2 breaking stories today. News that plans for 144 low-income apartments on West Lowell Avenue are now moving forward. They will break ground the spring of 2015. All of this happened because Governor Deval Patrick has allocated money to for lack of a term, I'll say subsidize, and someone will yell at me, I'm sure. But Governor Patrick said the state supports the project by Dakota Partners of Waltham with federal and state low-income housing tax credits, federal home investment partnership program money, and state bond subsidies. The governor said Haverhill also supports the project. We wanted to verify that. We always check the news. And we did find that the city called this project a Friendly 40B project in a March report to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. 40B refers to a state law that allows streamlined permitting of low-income housing. It is time for local news, national news, and local weather. Let's find out what else we can expect tonight besides thunder and lightning. So if Nate would get us ready, he's on the phones right now. If you'll take us to news, Nate, and we'll wish everyone a nice welcome on the other side.
Open mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
It's 8:01.
WHAV Merrimack Valley. WHAV is a not-for-profit service of Public Media of New England Incorporated. It's heard on 1640 AM, the web, at whav.net, and participating cable television stations.
Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. The United Nations Security Council has called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Rocket attacks appeared to lessen overnight, but no formal truce has been agreed to. Nick Harper reports from the UN headquarters in New York.
At the emergency meeting that took place just after midnight into Monday morning, the Security Council said an immediate and unconditional humanitarian ceasefire was needed. It was a unanimous call for a durable truce that would allow for humanitarian access and time to negotiate a longer-term peace. However, there's disappointment this was a presidential statement rather than a stronger, more formal resolution. The Palestinian representative at the UN, Riyad Mansour, expressed concern that the statement didn't go far enough, while Israel's ambassador, Ron Prosser, accused the Security Council of anti-Israel bias, as the statement did not mention Hamas by name.
The United Nations also says the downing of Malaysian jet MH17 over Ukraine may amount to a war crime. This follows the latest report from the UN stating that at least 1,129 people have died in the conflict. William Denslow has the latest.
According to Ukrainian officials on Monday, MH17's data recorders indicate a rocket caused massive explosive decompression that brought down the plane. Both Ukrainian authorities and pro-Russian separatists blame each other for the crash that killed all 298 people on board. Stating that these actions may amount to war crimes, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights Navi Pillay says anyone committing serious violations of international law will be brought to justice.
The economy of the EU could be harmed by up to €40 billion this year as part of sectoral economic sanctions against Russia, according to the European Commission. Diplomats from across the 28 EU member states are working through the legal documents for sanctions before approving the measures, expected to happen on Tuesday. Here's Europe correspondent Jack Perrick.
Predictions are the EU's GDP will take a 0.3% hit by implementing the capital markets restrictions and trade bans on defence and high-tech goods. Italy, for instance, which has a struggling economy, is concerned these restrictions will place them back into recession. But German Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier said Russia had given the EU no other option by supporting the pro-Russian rebels in eastern Ukraine. The Russian economy is expected to lose €23 billion this year through the sanctions. That's 1.5% of its GDP. The International Monetary Fund was already predicting a slowdown in Russian growth. The EU hopes these measures will force President Putin to cooperate over the Ukraine crisis by threatening his weakened economy. Jack Perrick, Brussels.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Here's what's happening in local news. A Haverhill woman who won a landmark slip-and-fall court decision is entitled to receive a damage award from the city of Haverhill. The city, however, is refusing to pay. Michelle M. Wilkins slipped and fell on ice at John Greenleaf Whittier School while on her way to a parent-teacher conference February 10, 2011. The state's Supreme Judicial Court reversed a lower court ruling in May that rejected her request for money. In a precedent-setting decision, justices carved out an exception to state law, saying communities are liable when certain events are not actually open to the public. Quote, "The city is pushing back. My intention going into this was never money. It was principle and principle only. No money in the world is going to fix the medical issues I now have that are permanent," Wilkins said in an exclusive telephone interview with WHAV Sunday. She said she has not been able to work at her job as front-end supervisor at Marshall's in Haverhill. Wilkins said she is unable to use her right hand and suffers from frozen shoulder and chronic pain disorder. Attorney John A. Finbury, representing Wilkins, told justices security at the conference proved it was not a public event.
The record does reflect that the vice principal and the principal was standing at the front door as my client, as Miss Wilkins, was coming in. They're there for two reasons. One, of course, to greet, but also as gatekeepers. And it's well known that public schools, especially in this day and age, are very secure facilities.
Essex County Superior Court originally allowed a city motion to deny Wilkins's claims, citing a law that prevents negligence payments when land is open to the public at no charge for educational and other purposes. In sports, WHAV's Nate Webster has this week's NASCAR race recap.
Jeff Gordon kisses the bricks for the fifth time at this weekend's Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This win meant a lot to him 20 years after his first win at his home track.
You never know when your next win's going to come. And, we've been close a couple of times to getting number 5, but, it's just a special place, and I love racing here. Got a little bit behind at times. Pit strategy changed for some people, and it threw some things off, and I think it made for a great race. So that was awesome. Just awesome.
Gordon took the lead from Casey Kane with 17 laps to go when Kane had issues with dirty tires and couldn't get enough grip to get a good restart. Trouble in the restart after the competition caution, causing a bottleneck behind him, and again on pit road when his gas man slipped trying to add a second can of fuel during a 4-tire pit stop. Caution came out for Danica Patrick when she lost a rear gear coming off pit road. Denny Hamlin chose to stay out while others pitted, but that strategy backfired later in the race. Nate Webster, WHAV Sports.
Remember, WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source, and it's always free. In the Edwin V. Johnson newsroom, this is Dana Esmel.
Wave weather.
I'm WHAV meteorologist Rob St. Pierre with Wave Weather. Showers and thunderstorms tonight will continue to ease off. It'll be partly to mostly cloudy as we head toward daybreak. Temperatures will be falling back to about 60. Now keep in mind, if you run into one of these thunderstorms, could still be some heavy rainfall out there. On your Tuesday, it's partly to mostly sunny, maybe a sprinkle or a shower in the morning, a high 77. It'll be much drier, too. Mostly clear and 56 Tuesday night, sunshine Wednesday, 75. I'm WHAV meteorologist Rob St. Pierre. Your next wave weather in 30 minutes.
Phil Christie here. Still not sure when your favorite features are broadcast? Check out the What's On page at www.whav.net for complete listings.
WHAV, Merrimack Valley, open mic.
From the Edwin B. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents The Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
Welcome back to the Open Mic Show, a 50-year staple of democracy in the Merrimack Valley. This hour of the Open Mic Show is being brought to you generously by Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council. Smart companies choose the Merrimack Valley. And you know, if you want a comprehensive listing of events sent to your email box every week, convenient, sign up for Merrimack Valley happenings at merrimackvalley.info. Merrimack Valley, one word, .info. And David Tibbetts and the staff at the Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council will sign you right up for that newsletter. Last week, I think, maybe the week before, and maybe this week, it was at least 19 pages. So there's quite a bit of information there. So you might want to check that out. merrimackvalley.info. All right. Nate was going to read a poem, but he's on the phone now. But Nate, you wouldn't know it. Our own Nathan E. Webster III, producer of the Open Mic Show, was conducting a bit of a protest of his own this weekend regarding Market Basket. He went to several other stores, not Market Basket stores, and brought his receipts back to Market Basket, or at least posted them somewhere with his notes about his experience. So maybe he'll talk to us about that. I've noticed on the Market Basket websites and Facebook pages that a number of employees are a little bit upset. I think that is putting it lightly, that Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick and Senator Elizabeth Warren, people that they would have thought normally would be allied with their cause, have largely stayed out of the fray. In the governor's defense, the governor said there's nothing he can do as governor one way or another, so he may as well stay out of it. That remains to be seen. It seems to me that a high-profile person like the governor, or maybe even Senator Warren, could play a great role as a mediator, but I guess that's not something they want to do, and certainly they have no obligation to do it. All right. I think there's a call for me. And meanwhile, while I'm taking this call, Nate is going to write me a note. All right, trivia question. Well, let's take this call. You are on the Open Mic Show. You're on the Open Mic.
Yeah, am I on?
Yes, you're on.
Okay. Oh, let me put down my TV on. How you doing, Tim?
Good. How are you?
Not bad. Hey, I've got a couple things. A birthday wish for Bobby M.
Okay, a birthday for Bobby M. Nate has that information, right?
Right, yeah. Him and Mr. Obama, August 4th, same day.
Both August 4th, President Obama. He hasn't sent out a request for beer, has he?
Tim Coco and the Open Mic
we
will
have
be
some interruption. Hold on. He hasn't sent out a request for beer to the two authors, has he?
No.
No, all right. So you have a trivia question here. Do you want to read it? Do you want me to read it?
Sure, I'll read it. This might be a little toughy, but it's something to do with sports. What is the oldest bowling league in the city of Haverhill?
What's
the name of the oldest bowling league still going today in the city of Haverhill, and where did it originate? At what city lane, Haverhill lanes, did it originate from?
All right, so it's a two-part question.
Yeah.
What is the oldest bowling league in Haverhill, and at what bowling alley did it start?
Yeah, if they can come up pretty close to the year, well, you know what? They can take a whack at it, but they don't have to get it. Or the guy maybe the guy that started it, it's on there.
All right, so...
You got his last name. But anyway, I just wanted to say this. It was a pretty interesting show. I don't want to say too much about the Mooless thing, but Market Basket. But here you go, union. A number of persons, states, or nations join together for a common purpose.
Well, right.
There you go. That's union.
Yeah, I mean, I know that it may have a distasteful sound to some, but we called the National Labor Relations Board in Washington and asked them for their opinion, and they said that, in fact, for all intents and purposes, the workers of Market Basket are a union.
Yeah, that's right.
It's protected, concerted activity. Interestingly, though, no one has actually filed a complaint with them, at least as of Friday night when we got this information.
What was the, you said they weren't allowed to go into work today, the dock workers?
Well, at least the warehouse workers, yes.
Do you know anything about that? Who stopped them from going in?
Were
the doors locked?
The doors were locked, and maybe someone who's better in the know can call us back with that information. My understanding, the doors were locked. Now, whether or not there was also what employees call the goon squad out there, I don't know. But the employees have noticed a number of scabs, and again, they're using union terminology. The people who break union lines are scabs.
Well, hey, we'll see what happens.
Now, let me ask you this question, though. For the prize for answering
that's a $10 gift certificate.
All right, because you did give us a nice supply of other goodies.
No, you can give that stuff away. Hey, I just want to guess on the zombie thing, but I don't want the prize. I'm going to guess because when was he growing up? In the 80s or 70s?
Well, he said there was nothing to do and nothing downtown, so I'm going to guess...
I'm going to guess it was the Dust Bowl maybe he played football in.
All right. Well, David Gauswood came up with this question, and that is not the answer he is...
Okay, that's all right. Well, I figured there was an open space there. But, I was thinking about...
But no, it's a good guess, and that's what we want people to do.
But, you know what, you're coming out of Bailey Boulevard, and you stopped at the lights, and you got a beautiful view of that river, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you're in Market Basket parking lot, and you got a beautiful view of the river. So whatever's going to happen with those buildings, once they're down, you're going to have a nice view of the river. So whatever happens after that happens. But that's the whole problem. We never utilize that river.
Oh, so you're saying, I'm assuming you're responding to what I said earlier.
Yeah,
so even a Dust Bowl would be preferable.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. Well, and I want to just make sure I thank you publicly and your family. Associated with the Kimball Tavern Antiques at the corner of Salem and South Main Streets in Haverhill, Bradford. Longtime supporters of the program provide many of these, besides the $10 gift certificate, provide many of these other prizes you see here, like these Trivial Pursuit games. And they dropped off a giant box of I like to call them new old stock, but brand new items.
Somebody calls in and wins some.
What's that?
I hope somebody calls and starts winning some prizes. There it is. This Kimball Tavern right now. I'm looking at it.
That's right.
Craig appreciates that. But I just want to give you an update on the Twilight Softball League was canceled tonight due to weather.
Oh, okay. Twilight Softball League canceled.
This is the 35 and over league in Haverhill. The playoffs are going to start next Monday. I'll give you an update. It's the best 2 out of 3.
Okay, playoffs start next Monday.
2 out of 3 in the quarterfinals. You've got first place McGonigal, Home Improvement, playing 8th place Sylvan Street Grill. McGonigals ended up in first with 12-2 record. You got that's on Diamond 2. Diamond 1 is Methuen Knights. They ended up with an 11-3 record versus 7th place Mass Athletics. Well, 1-13, and Diamond 3 we have Perfect View Window Cleaning at 10-4 versus Eastern Bag, and then at the Pug, that's the Pug named after the policeman there that passed. That's the one under the lights. Going to have Wilson Silkscreen at 9 and 5, playing Kelly's at 6 and 8. All games start at 6 o'clock p.m., and they'll start next Monday night. Come on down.
All right. So and so the games next week. You might miss the open mic show. But take your smartphone with you. You'll be able to stay in tune.
So,
and now you say it's 35 and up. Is there an upper limit?
Well, there's a 35 and over league.
35 and over.
If you can play, no, they have 45 and over too. They have another league after. They have a couple older leagues. They have a 45 and over too.
All right. So I'm still eligible.
Yeah. You can get on a 45 and over. 30. You're probably 35 and over.
All right. No, I'd have to be in the 45 and over.
No, you could. Well, we have one, Mr. Seropian, Ronnie Seropian. He plays for Lepros down there in the 45 and over. I believe he's 75 years old.
Oh, really? Well, anyway, I have a show to do. That's my excuse.
I know it.
I don't want to embarrass myself.
I'll give you an update on that.
What's that?
I'll give you an update on the whatever I can get. I'll give you an update on the playoffs.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the prize and the question and the report.
All right. We'll see you. What do you think about Market Basket?
Well, I have to say that's why I wanted Dr. Wolff on the program, because I found it kind of fascinating that this was rather spontaneous. And, it shows how close any one of us are to becoming a rebel. And I think there's something very American about that.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, it's been going on for quite a while between these guys. I don't want to get into it, but there was one gentleman on the NECN News, and he said he did mention, he said, "Jesus, too bad." He did say this. He says it's too bad that the Arthur Vesta's family weren't treated like employees years ago.
No, I guess in a way it's kind of like the Middle East. Where do you start counting?
Yeah.
If you start counting in 1967, you say, okay, one group was there before the other.
That's
if you start counting in the year 1067, you have a very different result.
Oh yeah.
So it's an interesting question, but I think it's a valid one. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to draw the prize right.
All right, I'll let you go.
We're going to draw it right after Community Spotlight. So you hang by the speaker.
All right, we'll see you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, just repeat before we go to break that here's a question, and you can win a $10 gift certificate to Kimball Tavern Antiques. $10, same as cash. Name the oldest bowling league in Haverhill. And where or who started it? That's a good question right there. And the other prizes are still here. And we're going to give away the cake right after Community Spotlight. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Those Boston stations don't always understand weather in the Merrimack Valley. Stay informed with WHAV weather every 30 minutes, 24 hours a day on Soft Gold, WHAV.
Catch the wave!
Melinda's Garden Moments help gardeners create and maintain a healthy, beautiful garden with ease, inside or out, and all year long. This is Melinda Myers, inviting you to tune in every weekday morning, right here on WHAV. You'll learn creative ways to grow your own vegetables and herbs while beautifying your landscape. Eco-friendly lawn care, flower garden design basics, unique container gardens, attracting birds and butterflies to the landscape, and much more. Again, please join me weekday mornings for Melinda's Garden Moment for a very environmentally friendly approach to gardening. Remember, only local radio can bring you this feature opportunity, but only WHAV does.
Community Spotlight is brought to you by Haverhill Bank. Haverhill Bank is a generous supporter of the area's civic and cultural programs.
All it takes is just one bank. Haverhill Bank. Community Spotlight.
The Andover Day Street Fair, to benefit the Colleen Ritzer Memorial Scholarship, will take place on Saturday, September 6th. From 10 to 5 in downtown Andover. There will be local artists, crafts, dancers, food, and live music. For more info, visit www.andoverday.com or www.andoverdayfest.com. www.andoverbusiness.org. Someone you know is on WHAV. To submit or read your own nonprofit announcements, click on the Contact tab at WHAV.net or email news@WHAV.net. In the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, this is Nate Webster.
WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
You've been on the edge of your seats waiting to find out who is going to win the birthday cake or anniversary cake from LBD's Italian Bakery. And you know what? First, I want to tell you that this hour of the Open Mic Show is being brought to you by the Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council. Smart companies. Smart companies what? Choose the Merrimack Valley. All right, here is, if you're watching on television, here is the authentic Chinese cowboy hat that Jack Bevilacqua purchased some years ago. We keep it in the studio for things like this. These have been thoroughly shaken up by Nate, and I've shook them up again. I'm going to draw a name out of the hat. Okay, here's just one. Let's see what it says. Tom with an August birthday. This is the one that Woody just put in. Is that right? Or is this another? Nate's going to evaluate. I don't think I should list the last names, that's all. Was the one that just came in? Yes. All right, well, it really was shaken up. So, Tom, and I can tell you, most of you, I just don't feel that I have the right to read the last names here. But Tom is very well known in the city, and his birthday is in August, and he is getting a cake from LBD's Italian Bakery, 140 South Main Street in Haverhill. Now, next week we start with September birthdays and anniversaries, so be sure to be ready with your entries for September. All right. We're trying to find time for Nate to read his Market Basket poem, but the phones are alive and well, which is, I guess that's one benefit of bad weather. Most of you like to go outside on nice summer nights and then forget about us little folks on the radio. So this way you can do it. All right. Let's see. I think David Goudswood had a comment ultimately about my tie, and let's see what he had to say about that. Paisley and stripes is a Tim Gunn preference. Now, I don't know anything about this Tim Gunn, except that a staffer in my office, Carolyn, made the same reference. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, that I have Paisley with stripes. All right. Nate, are you ready to read your poem? All right, Nate's gonna go on the right side camera, and he is going to read his Market Basket poem that he composed, I think, this weekend. Is that right? He's not ready. He's shy. He's getting up his courage. White knuckles, relaxed. Count to 10. Take a deep breath. He's actually trying to find it on his phone is what's really happening here. All right, major breaking news stories exclusively reported by WHAV today. Let me just give you an update on those. We have 144 low-income apartments being funded. They're going to go on West Lowell Avenue in Haverhill. Dakota Partners of Waltham is planning those. There'll be 72 affordable units for families, 56 affordable units, and 8 units for households earning less than 30% of the area median income. All right, Nate will tell me when he's ready. Also, an important slip and fall case. Michelle Wilkins won a landmark decision by the state's highest court. The state's highest court essentially said that when an event is not completely open to the public, as a parent-teacher conference is not open to the public, then it does not have protection from liability, and that her case against the city may continue. All right, Nate is ready. He's on camera. Of course, I'm not. He's managed to split the screen with an empty tray.
That was one of them. Now I've got the Market Basket store up behind me. It's fitting for this poem, ladies and gentlemen. I actually wrote this last night, believe it or not.
Okay.
So here we go. We are Market Basket, it's entitled. We are the average customer. We are black and white, young and old. We are middle class, a struggling parent, and the homeless. We are the frequent shopper and the casual buyer. We are Market Basket. We are a hard worker, a lifer, a part-timer. We live and breathe by the courteous values we were taught. To never talk down, to always stand up. For the consumer, the whole reason we are here. We are Market Basket. We are not worried about profit or bottom lines or top margins. We are not in it for the money, the fame, or the fortune. We do not relish on the misfortune of others. We do not hurt. We are not disloyal. We do not waver. We stand strong in solidarity and brotherhood, sisterhood too. We are Market Basket. We do not appreciate being taken advantage of. We do not appreciate the hurting of our workers, our families, our customers. We will stand our ground until we get what we want, and we will not back down. We are Market Basket. We make this promise to back our stores, our warehouses, and our drivers. We only want one thing. We want our boss back. The kind, caring, gentle man we all grew to know and love. We are tired of waiting. We want answers, and we want them now. We want the new board out and things back to the way they used to be. We are the average customer, the lifer, the part-timer, the casual buyer. We are the reason you are here. We are Market Basket.
Very good, Nate. We had no idea you were a poet. Unfortunately, our program has been cut off from Channel 22, but hopefully listeners at WHAV.net or at watching at WHAV.tv caught your message. But either way, it's going to be on the repeat. So 20 years from now, at your retirement party, we will embarrass you with that recording. Okay. All right. Have a great night, everyone. We're back next week with more of the Open Mic Show. Same time. Stay tuned.
Open Mic!
Join Tim Coco live on the Open Mic again next Monday night at 6:30. The opinions expressed on the Open Mic Show are not necessarily those of WHAV, its underwriters, or affiliated stations. The Open Mic Show came to you from the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom.
It's 8:31.
When local news breaks, the wave is there. Soft gold. WHAV.
Catch the wave!
Melinda's Garden Moments help gardeners create and maintain a healthy, beautiful garden with ease, inside or out and all year long. This is Melinda Myers, inviting you to tune in every weekday morning, right here on WHAV. You'll learn creative ways to grow your own vegetables and herbs while beautifying your landscape. Eco-friendly lawn care, flower garden design,